remember the dissertation is such a cognitive loaded process, right? And so if you don't have the mental capacity to do so, not because you can't, but because you just put way too much pressure, now you can run into a situation that I don't want you to do. And in the book, I talk about the reality check partner as somebody who is, maybe a family, trusted family or friend who's going to tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, you need to take a break because I see that you're becoming a little more drained than normal, and take a day break and come back to the work. So sometimes you need that. Let's be honest real quick. Did you have all these grand plans to write your dissertation during the summer break? If so, it's no worries, right? You had this plan you went into at the start of the summer, but you have vacations and stuff. And maybe that when you went on your trips, you had these ideas and plans around writing. But when you got to vacation, you're like, shoot, I'm not doing any writing today. I'll write when I come back. And then when you came back, you were like, oh, I'll get to it now. And then now it became something else popped up at work, or you had to do something else. And it's just all these things have impeded your progress. And now that you reflect back on the past 2.5, 3 months of the summer break, you recognize that you haven't gotten to where you wanted to get to with the process. It's okay. I understand as we're getting ready to start the next semester, a lot of us might be feeling some shame and guilt for not hitting the milestones and goals that we wanted to during our break. And so, with that, I know at sometimes, as we experience that shame, it can turn into frustration. That frustration can manifest as being, having procrastination. And then that procrastination just keeps us stuck. And then by being stuck, we get down and like, I'm never going to finish this thing because I can't get out of my own head. If that's the case, I want you to watch this episode from ABD to PhD show, because we're going to talk about why beating up on yourself is not going to help you get your writing done any faster. And I want you all to be able to embrace and be okay with the regrets of not getting to where you wanted to go, and then actually having a plan and a strategy in order to experience success in the coming months so that you can finish your dissertation, in the time frame that you are looking to do. And if for those of you who are just tuning in for your first time, my name is Dr. Ramon Goings. I'm founder of Done Dissertation and host of the From ABD to PhD show. And at Done Dissertation, our goal is to help demystify the dissertation process so that you, the doctoral student, can write and defend your dissertation in record time. Today's episode is sponsored by the Done Dissertation Velocity Coaching Program. And this program is dedicated for doctoral students like yourself who are committed to finishing, but just need a proven process, a strategy, an infrastructure, and guidance in order to get to the finish line. And so if that's you and you want that type of support, what I would welcome you to do is schedule a complimentary consultation. You can scan the QR code that is here on your screen, or you can go to www.velocitydissertation.com. And again, www.velocitydissertation.com. Now, let's get into today's episode, because I want to talk about how you can get rid of the shame of not finishing your dissertation in the time frame that you wanted to, or making the progress. And so one of the things I wanted to do as a way to think through this is I want to bring you to the board for a second. And you might be wondering what's the board. And so the board is an opportunity for me to write through some ideas with you to get you starting to think about how you can do this process differently. And so one of the things I want you to consider as we're thinking about how to overcome the regret of not finishing our dissertation in the time frame that we wanted to is one important word. And so I'm going to write this word here. And that word that's going to start everything off for us is the word reflection. And so one of the things that you're going to have to do early and often, if you're trying to make any type of momentum with your document, is that you are going to have to be self-reflective of what's happening in your dissertation process. Because a lot of times what we do is just go through the motions and we don't take a step back to just say, wait a minute, pause. What am I doing here? And then, in what ways can, my actions be, more beneficial to the process? And so we have to be reflective of what's going on, and we have to consider doing that early and often. Now, as we're thinking about being reflective and engaging in this reflection, you might be wondering, well, how do I do that? What questions should I ask? And so I want to give you a couple of questions to consider. And so our first question I want you to consider is, did you have a plan? So again, our first question that you can do in your reflection is ask yourself, did you have a plan? For many of us, this is a challenge right here. So as you think to reflect, you might have said, oh, I'm going to write my dissertation. A lot of times I ask students, like, what are you working on? They say, oh, my next goal is I'm going to write chapter 2. And then I say, well, how are you going to do that? I'm going to show up and write every day. But what does that really look like? What does that mean? That's just so, that's so generic of a plan. So sometimes as you are developing and thinking through the plans, they are way too generic that you can't even act on them. Because if I just told you that my plan is to write every day, your question might be, well, what does that mean? Writing every day could be 5 minutes, could be 55 minutes, could be 5 hours. What does that mean? If you don't have a metric on it or have a way to account for it, then is it really a plan that you can execute? So as you're thinking through this, I want you to consider, did you have a plan? If yes, you had a plan, then a sub question to consider is, did I execute? Did I execute the plan? It's kind of a 1A situation. I'll put a little A there. Did I execute the plan? Because for a lot of us, it might just be I had a plan, but I just didn't execute. And one of the things that we know and what we do in the Velocity program for folks who work with us is like we help you think through how to execute a plan, because there's nothing worse than having a plan, but you have no strategy to implement and execute the plan. And so we try to make sure and take the guesswork out so that you can implement. Because there's no, again, nothing worse than someone who says, I'm going to do all these things, have it neatly written out, and then you don't do anything with it. It's actually a waste of time. If you're not going to execute the plan, I'd rather just not even have a plan at all. Because you've done all the work to create something and you don't do anything with it. So that's the first question I want us to consider, is like around, did I have a plan? Now, to take this another step, the second question as you're thinking through this reflection activity that I want you to do is think about and ask yourself, did you overextend yourself? So the next question is, did you overextend yourself? So as we think about this, sometimes as we are going through this process of being a doctoral student and all these things, we have so many competing interests, right? I know you may be a person who is taking care of a aging relative. You might have kids. And I know during the summertime, I see my godson and my godsister. I see sometimes she's running him all over the world for AAU. So I know, like, we as parents, you might have competing priorities with the children moving around. And so you may be overextended, right? Maybe work is asking you to do a lot more right now. Maybe you got a promotion, so you have more to take on. So you have to reflect and think about, did you overextend yourself? Because a lot of times we can have a plan and we could start to execute, but if we don't have the bandwidth to actually execute the plan and bandwidth to implement all the steps of our plan, it can fall short. And that for you might be the case of what happened during the summer months, right? It's like I had a plan, I was executing, and then X happened. These things are going to happen. Life is going to continue to life. And so you have to figure out and think through, how am I going to make sure I preserve my energy and preserve my mental space so that I can continue to show up for the dissertation in the way that I need to in order to finish the process. And so then tied to that question is my last question as we think through self-reflection is, did you put too much pressure on yourself? Did you put on too much pressure? So that might be another piece, right? Did you put on too much pressure for yourself? Because sometimes it might just be, hey, I have the time, you know, I had some capacity, I had a plan, but I just put so much pressure on, like, if I don't finish in these 2 or 3 months, I'm never going to finish. And sometimes as a student, you can put that pressure on yourself. And I want you to reflect and think back, did you do that? Because sometimes a little bit of pressure is good, right? Sometimes having that timeline, having a deadline will push you to act, right? But having too much pressure can actually put you into kind of like an overload where your brain will just lock up and you can't engage in the writing process. Because again, remember, the dissertation is such a cognitive loaded process, right? There's so much you're going to have to do with your dissertation in terms of the thought process, creating new knowledge. There's a thinking to this. And so if you don't have the mental capacity to do so, not because you can't, but because you just put way too much pressure, now you can run into a situation that I don't want you to do. So I really want you to think through and reflect on these couple of questions, because they will be helpful for you as you are thinking about and overcoming some of the shame that you might have experienced in terms of finishing your dissertation. And so again, if this has been helpful, let me know in the comments. And then if you're watching this on YouTube, we found that about 89% of folks who watch our videos are not subscribers. So if you're watching this on YouTube, if you could do me a favor, hit the like and subscribe button, or that would be phenomenal. Hit the notification bell, because we want to make sure that this content gets in the hands of more doctoral students just like you. And then again, I want to say thank you so much for watching. And now when we think about this, right, and overcoming the regret of finishing our dissertation, I want to get to our next point, because once we reflect, right, there's going to be another phase to this. And so one of the things now, what we have to consider is going to be another important word that we're going to have to figure out and create a plan for, is this word. And the word is roadblock. And you might be wondering, well, what do you mean when we're talking about roadblocks? Roadblocks are things that are going to continuously pop up in this dissertation process. Roadblocks can be big, roadblocks can be small. One roadblock that oftentimes our clients face is that I don't have the time to give my dissertation because of everything else that's happening. So they have a time roadblock and a capacity issue. For other folks, it might be I don't have the structure and support to be able to write my dissertation in the way I need to. One example of this is like my chair is absent and I don't get any feedback. That is like a dissertation process oriented roadblock. You have to figure out, what does the roadblock look like for you? And so again, some roadblocks that we often see our clients experience is, and I'll give you an acronym, is the way we think through this, is we call it the 3 Ps. And so the 3 Ps are, sometimes we'll have a people roadblock, we will have a process roadblock, and we will have a product roadblock. And taking these together, we call it the 3 Ps. And a lot of times you have to figure out, where is my roadblock? Is it the people? Is it my process? Or is it the product? When I say the people, I'm thinking about in trying to give you insight on, is it a people issue? Do I have a challenging committee who doesn't see the value of what I'm doing? Do I not have an accountability partner that's going to hold me, accountable for moving this process along? Do I not have what I call in my book 14 Secrets to a Done Dissertation, a guide to navigating the dissertation process and finishing in record time? Do I have a reality check partner situation where, and in the book I talk about the reality check partner as somebody who is, maybe a trusted family or friend who's going to tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, you need to take a break because I see that you're becoming a little more drained than normal, and take a day break and come back to the work. So sometimes you need that. Whereas some folks might need an accountability structure. Like you need someone to say, hey, this is due next week. And you'd be surprised what you can do when you have a deadline. So all of these things start to add up. You have to figure out, do I have a people issue? Second from there is, you may have a process issue. And what the process issue might look like is, thinking through, do you understand all the rules of engagement for getting out of your doctoral program? So like, for instance, do you know when dissertations are due to the graduate school? I'm going to take my doctoral students that I have as a faculty member in my own doctoral program. I'm also the department chair. And for our doctoral students at the university, the graduate student deadline, I'll take, for instance, the spring semester. Dissertations are normally due to the graduate school by May the 1st. They don't have to be fully approved by the grad school by then, but they have to be submitted. So this means that the student will have to have defended before May 1st and had some time to address any committee feedback and or get the document formatted for the university requirements. And so as you are thinking through that for doctoral students, you got a backwards map. So if I do, May the 1st, I probably need to defend the latest probably is like April the 23rd. Because I need to give myself like 7 days, a week, at least a week to like turn things around just in case. Now at our university, we have a 2-week requirement before you can defend that. There has to be a notice that goes out. So if we're going to defend April the 23rd, the document has to be approved by the committee and say that you are okay to defend 2 weeks prior to the defense date. So on April 23rd turns into what? We'd go 7 back, probably around the 9th or so of April. Now you can see, all right, I did have this document approved by the 9th. I need to give my committee time to read. Now with backwards map, I probably need 3 to 4 weeks. So now we're in March. Document probably needs to be written by March the 9th to the committee. But wait a minute, my chair wants to see it first. They need a couple of weeks to review. So now we probably need the document done around, mid-February to late February. So you see how these things build. And if you don't understand the process, that will leave you stuck and become a roadblock. And then lastly is the product. If you have a product issue, and in product, I'm meaning talking about the writing, the actual product. So if you have a writing challenge, that happens all the time, right? A lot of folks come to us initially because they say, I'm struggling with the writing. I'm getting all this feedback on my work. I'm struggling with synthesizing versus summarizing, and I'm not quite sure how to address it because I don't have a structure. And so we know that's the case. And literally, I'm going to give you all access to a free training to solve that issue. Because if you're someone who has struggled and you got feedback that has said, like, oh, you need improvement with your writing, I want to give you access to a writing training called Elevate Your Academic Writing. You can grab the free training. It's at www.thedonedissertation.com/elevate. And again, I'll pull up another link for you all so you can just grab this directly, because there's no need to go through your program and not be able to get that support that you need. And again, the website to get access to the training is www.thedonedissertation.com/elevate. And it's called Elevate Your Academic Writing, because I know so many doctoral students are trying to figure out, how do I engage and become a stronger academic writer? So again, if you've experienced that, here's the training that will actually solve your product issue if you have a writing challenge that has happened. Along with this, another challenge you might be hearing along with the product is that maybe your chair has comments about, alignment between, say, your research questions and your framework, or something going on with how you're writing up your findings. Like, those things are product related. This training will get at a number of those with a strategy in order to improve. Because what we found is that so many students need that support, and it's not often taught explicitly in our doctoral program. So make sure that you get access to that training. But again, those are the 3 Ps that we can have to consider when we have roadblocks along our journey. Again, if this has been helpful for you, let me know in the comments if you're watching this on LinkedIn or Facebook. And if you haven't yet been a subscriber on our YouTube channel, go to our YouTube page if you're not already watching this on there now, and make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, because we found that only like about 10% of folks who watch our videos are actually subscribers. So a lot of you are probably brand new to the page or haven't subscribed yet. So make sure you hit the subscribe button and follow us on any other platform that you are watching this on. But again, I hope this has been helpful for you all, because I really want you all to consider letting go of those regrets from finishing your dissertation process when you don't do it in the time frame that you wanted to. Now, as we get to the last point I want us to consider, right? When we take those roadblocks, right? When we take the roadblocks, we gotta create solutions for the 3 Ps. So, right. So when we're thinking about this, we gotta have solutions. So it's nothing good enough to just think through the roadblocks. We have to create solutions to the roadblocks. And so what this is going to look like is that you're going to have to start to brainstorm ideas about potential workarounds for the roadblock that you might be experiencing. So just to give an example, let's say we had a people issue, right? We're going to go people. And the issue was, let's say, um, no accountability. And sorry, y'all, I'm doing this live in real time. So as I'd be writing if I was on a board. So let's say you had no accountability. We know that's the challenge, right? So a solution might be, connect with a virtual writing group. So for some of you, it might be like, hey, I might need accountability structure. I might get with a virtual writing group. That might be the route that you go. There are so many things that you can think through, right? And so now what you have to do is become solution oriented. But let's take this. Let's continue, right? Let's say we got the people down. Let's go to the process, right? We have a process issue. Let's say you didn't know when you submit IRB application. And I'll put this IRB app deadline. Let's say it was a process issue. So we know that the challenge is that, hey, I don't know the IRB application deadline. So thinking through that, we might say, all right, a solution might be call the IRB office. that might be your easy solution to that problem that you're experiencing, right? So we just got to be clever and think through this. And literally, what I'm showing you is what I often do when we do workshops at your university. And I usually will have you say to do these type of things on like a little like flash like note sticky note like this. You can write, you can just write in, what's the solution, what's the challenge, what's the solution, rip it off and then stick it on your wall wherever, so that the next time you see the issue happen, you actually have a solution already in place. And then with that, the last one, so we could round it out with the three P's is, let's say you have a product issue. Let's say let's say struggle with academic writing. Let's say that was the challenge that we were experiencing, right? I'm struggling with academic writing. So now we know, based on the struggle that we're experiencing, we now can start to think about what's the solution. And literally, this particular challenge, it might be grab the elevate your academic writing training. So, you just have to be resourceful when you're thinking through this. And this is what we are here for at Done Dissertation. We help our clients kind of think through this process when we are experiencing, challenges with what we're going through, right? And so, like a solution like this, it's quite easy. Literally, you got the solution on today's episode. Literally, just go to this training. Go to www.thedonedissertation.com/elevate. You can grab the training right from there. And then consume it and apply it, right? Again, you got to make sure that we're applying the things that we're learning, not just taking in content and taking in information for information purposes. I want you all to, not only use, but then improve based on the feedback and things that you learn from these trainings. And so with that said, I want to say thank you so much for watching this episode. I hope this was helpful to think about how to overcome the regret of not finishing your dissertation. If you're someone that says, you know what, I like this, but I want someone to help walk me through this, I want that support, I want that structure, then what I would invite you to do is actually to apply to work with us in our Velocity coaching program. And you can schedule a complimentary consultation. We'll have you submit a document where you are with your dissertation, actually give you some insight on how things can go in order to finish your dissertation quickly. And so if you want to learn more and actually schedule a consultation, you can go to www.velocitydissertation.com, or you can scan the QR code that is here on your screen. Again, I want to see you all win in this dissertation process. So don't let your ego and the belief that you shouldn't get help be the reason why you don't get to where you're supposed to in the time frame that you wanted to. So with that said, my name is Dr. Ramon Goings, founder of Done Dissertation. And until next time, we look forward to seeing you on another episode from AB to PhD Show. I wish you a Done Dissertation. Take care.